Okay, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Esther in Argentina, Tito, Ernesto, Irma, and Josué in Ecuador, Lilian, Ángeles, Rubén in Peru, Daniela in England, Emily in Mexico, Raj in Canada, Judy in Germany, and everyone else in Facebook. I don't know where you are, but welcome to our 30th,
yeah,
I say that again, 30th International English Online Meeting. Thank God for that. Thanks, Emilio Garcia, the Dean of the School of Education at Universidad de Piura, and thank you for being here. Today is the 8th of November, and we started in March. The 8th of November, and today we have a very special guest, as I usually say, Esther Vásquez from Argentina. First, first let me say a few things about our next presentations. Somebody who wants to read, please, anybody?
Life is beautiful.
Life is beautiful. 1 day, 1 hour, and 1 minute will not come again in your entire life. Avoid fights, angriness, and speak lovely to every person.
Yes, thank you, Ruben. You see, no fights, Ruben, no angriness. Especially with your children, Ruben.
Yeah.
And me.
The grandson.
Yes. Okay, coming up next Sunday, we will have Rosemary Rivera from Bolivia. She will be talking about this important topic. And then we will have Tito, finally, the very famous Tito from Ecuador. He will be talking about soft skills. And to finish this beautiful month of November, another person from Mexico, Monica Rosas, who happens to be Araceli's daughter. I don't have any photograph with Esther because we haven't met face-to-face yet. She'll come to Peru, or I'll go to Argentina to meet her next year, I promise.
Okay, that's going to be great.
Because your house is my house, right?
Exactly.
And my little flat is your little flat.
Yeah, we share. We share.
Okay, let me say a few words about Esther. Esther Vásquez is founder and CEO of EVenio,
yes.
EVenio Educational Consultancy, and accompanies institutions as an advisor in the pedagogic and the academic fields. She's an experienced English teacher and teacher trainer and works at state-run middle schools in the Province of Buenos Aires at Escuela de Maestros, GCBA, and Universidad de Buenos Aires, UBA. Esther holds a BA in Educational Management and has specialized in the areas of neurolearning and neurodiversity over the last 10 years. She has delivered presentations in Argentina, Paraguay, Uruguay, Chile, Bolivia, and the USA, and now in Peru. And in 2017, she was granted a professional development scholarship by TESOL International. So let's give Esther a big round of virtual applauses.
Not necessary. Okay.
So you may start, Esther.
Lovely.
Wait. Okay, let me stop. Okay.
Yes.
And now you may start.
Okay, lovely. Oops, not there. See, we go back to the beginning. That's it. That's it. Can you see well there? It's
yes, perfectly.
Yes.
Well, I'll let you know that if you want to interrupt or make any question in the meantime, no problem. You just stop me. I mean, there's no need to wait for the time for the time for questions, right? In case some doubt arises or whatever. So, well, this is the first slide, and then I prepared this one to give you myself a warm welcome. I feel thrilled to be here, to be sharing a bit as Jaime said, we have never met, I mean, physically, not face to face, and yet this year has given us, I would say all of us, the tremendous possibility of meeting so very many people around the world, right? So we should be thankful for that, and I'm very thankful for that as well. So I want to give you a warm welcome. I hope you enjoy my presentation. We will start with a game so that you get to know a bit more about me and I get to know a bit more about you. So we're going to play a game. I generally do it when we are in face-to-face presentations, but I'll try it here and I think it's going to work well, right? So the idea is this: we're going to play a game. I will show you a slide with statements that are true to me, that say some things about myself. If they apply to you too, you just have to say, oh, just like me. Yes, if for example, I say, I live in Argentina, and there's somebody who lives in Argentina, that person will preferably put up the hand, yes, the right hand or whatever hand, and say, oh, just like me. Yes, so let's try, let's unmute ourselves and say it all together, just like me.
Okay, okay.
Just like me.
Okay, we are just trying it. So let's see now. So as I said, you will get to know a bit more about myself because these things are about me and you let me know if they are about you too. So I enjoy reading.
Just like me.
Just like me.
Just like me.
Okay. I love traveling by plane.
Just like me.
Just like me.
Okay. My birthday is in January.
Not
Oh.
like me.
No.
No, nobody. Okay. Good.
December.
Okay, well, we're just about to have it. So I like riding roller coasters.
Just like me.
Just like me.
Just a few there. Right. I love them. I was born in the last century. I want to hear that.
Just like me.
Just like me.
I have been a teacher for more than 25 years.
Just like
Just
me.
like me.
We are experienced teachers. I love teaching.
Just like me.
I prefer face-to-face teaching, to tell you the
Just
truth.
like me.
Just like me.
Okay. I love holidays.
Just like me.
Like me.
Yeah, love them.
Indeed, holidays.
Yes.
Just like me.
Just like all of us.
I
And
don't.
You don't. I'm thrilled to be at Jaime's 30th International Online Meeting, right?
Just like
Just
me.
like me.
Okay, very good. So thank you. Thank you for participating. Yeah, good. So let's start by having an agenda, sharing the agenda of, what we are going to do today. Yes, first we will talk mostly, I would say, but we will start with some brain compatible teaching and learning strategies. We will talk a bit about mindsets and the power of yet. We will talk about repetition and novelty. The importance of closing the gap. This presentation's name is Mind the Brain, Mind the Gap. So we'll see what practices we have are brain compatible and which may be a bit brain antagonistic. So that we can see if we can close the gap and go always for the ones that are brain compatible. And then a final recap, and then we say goodbye, and that's it, right? Or we have some questions. So I love this phrase by Maria Montessori, right? She says, all children explode into learning. I shifted it a bit to all students of all ages. The point is that there are differences and they learn at different times. They have different learning preferences, different learning modalities. But the idea, the conception is that we as teachers have to be very sure that all our students can explode into learning, right? And let them know that we know that they have weaknesses, but that we will try to focus also on their strength, right? That especially if they think that they can't because sometimes they are just focused on the things they can't do, we will try to see what they can do, right? We will try to make the impossible possible, right? Trying to help assist and see the different things and tools we can use to promote learning, right? So I like this phrase by, this quote by Robert Frost. He says, the brain is a wonderful organ. It starts working the moment you get up in the morning and does not stop until you get into the office. And you get they get to school, right? When they sometimes seem to lose all type of interest, and sometimes their creativity seems to vanish, right? So the idea is to see how, because the brain is the organ of learning, we learn with all, let's say, the body, but the process is done, the processing is done in the brain. So we'll try to see what the brain likes and generally, let's say, how it processes information best so as to go for that, right? So I love this phrase. I learned it many years ago, when I was doing one of the diplomas I did on neurolearning. And I always include this phrase in my presentations. Leslie Hart says, teaching without an awareness of how the brain learns is like designing a glove with no sense of what a hand looks like, its shape, how it moves. And nowadays, there's more, let's say, said about, or more is said about neurolearning, how the brain learns. But I would say, and nearly risk it, saying is that when we were training ourselves to become teachers, we were not taught much about how the brain learns. We were taught strategies, let's say, games and different things to do in our classes. But let me tell you that it's amazing when I, for example, listen to the presentations that we have on Sundays. Everything, although it's not said, has a brain correlation. When we speak about motivation, well, yeah, we can say what happens to the brain when something is motivating, and so on and so forth. So one question, and you can answer unmuting yourselves or through the chat. If the brain is the organ of learning, teaching should therefore be, how could we call it? Should be, let's see.
Teaching should, if brain is therefore be.
I will give you one, and then you probably should be, it's called brain friendly. What else?
Friendly.
Respectful of the brain processes and time for doing that. Maybe.
Could be brain oriented.
Brain aware.
Brain engaging.
Teaching should be the food for the brain, or the fuel.
Because, let's see, Jaime had muted me. Jaime, okay, I haven't to close my mouth.
Oh, okay.
No, please.
I was like this because I felt.
I'm so sorry, Esther. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I was muting.
I was afraid. I said something wrong and should already stop. Okay.
No way.
So, brain oriented, brain friendly. You said some other things, right? And they were all correct. Yes. So we should have the brain in mind. We say brain compatible, brain fitting. Yes. Go in that direction, right? In which the brain learns best.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a question. I had prepared a Mentimeter, but then I said it's going to take long. Yes, so we will directly again share here. And this is a question for all of you. What should educators provide students with in their lessons so that learning takes place? The priority, okay. If you had to think of the first thing we should offer our students so that learning takes place, which should be that first thing that you can think of?
Yeah, that the classes should be meaningful for them. Meaningful. They have to have, the content should be meaningful for students.
Definitely, Edison. Yes, that's one thing. What else? Thank you.
Has to be relevant.
Good morning.
Relevant.
Good morning. For me, emotions.
Good. There it says motivation, a familiar environment. What else did you say? Sorry.
Good morning. For me, emotions.
Okay, good. Compatible with positive emotions.
Yeah, I mean, in general, because I think when we teach and also when we learn, all is related about emotions, okay? For example, if you feel depressed, if you feel happy, okay, it's going to be related with when you are going to learn. There's a connection.
Definitely. We will.
Yeah. I want to say different types of activities that includes the different ways of learning for auditive, visuals, kinesthetic, math-oriented, all those styles.
Okay, good. All that you're saying is correct. Well, we could stop the talk here because you've covered most of it, I would say. No, but you've said all that you said is correct. But basically, the first thing we should be sure we are providing our students with is with as Daniel Goleman calls it, a resonant environment, a resonant atmosphere. Resonant physically, it should be clean, it should be well lit, all that. But as somebody was saying, I could not get your name because I just have a few of you here in front of me on the screen, but it has to do with this, right? With establishing routines, not becoming highly predictable so that they get bored because they know whatever we're going to do. They know that our procedure from beginning to end. No, but establishing routines is brain compatible because the brain is kind of not, let's say, all the time on alert. Yes, because this teacher changes all the time, but there should be a pattern in every lesson. There should be an enriched classroom environment with visuals. You know that we humans are mostly, although we have different learning, let's say, tendencies or, as you said, styles, Roxana, we are mostly wired for visual input. Yes, because that's the way we could survive best. Yes, or our ancestors there in the savannah, right, could, let's say they could just, that's why we started walking on two legs to see more, right, around. So we are strongly wired for visual input. We should not contaminate anyway, no? Because sometimes you see that you go into some classrooms and it's full of things and you're in November and still says, welcome children, and we are in March and say, no, you should remove that. But you know what I mean, it's giving the visual support to what's happening in the different lessons, right? Multiple resources, we'll come to that, to this question of the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic. Multiple approaches to teaching, because we learn through all the senses, all of us. But it's true that some have some learning preferences and we need to be assisted according to our learning preferences, right? And it's known that we teachers generally teach according to our preferred learning modality. If I am very visual, there will be a lot of visual input in my classroom. If I'm highly auditory and I like music, and there will be music in my classroom, because unless I plan it and I realize that I'm probably just favoring one learning style, I will just mostly go for mine, and those children who have the same preferred learning modality will be favored in that sense. And the others will be deprived of some kind of input that would assist them more. Yes, so multiple approaches to teaching, yes, also make a resonant environment. Graded tasks, graded activities. I did not include here the question of time, but also sometimes it's a question of giving some learners a bit more time. They process more slowly. So sometimes it's a question of time. Then we humans have a strong desire for being with others, right? So if we can bring collaboration, flexible grouping into the lessons, better, yeah?
Sorry, Esther, sorry to
Yes?
interrupt. There is a person in Facebook Live asking you a question. May
Okay.
I? Mariela Bermudez, she says, how can we enrich classroom environments in virtual classes?
Okay, we will go through the presentation and I ask you, Jaime, to keep the question
Okay.
and see if we can kind of answer it gradually.
Thank you very much.
Nevertheless, thank you. What we can say is that that's a question which, let's say, we should have a little bit more of information just in case Mariela wants to tell us. But one thing is when they are synchronic, so we can have inputs. Yes, we can have virtual inputs. I can have my finger puppets. I can do more things. And another thing is when it's asynchronic, which is harder. Yes, but when it's synchronic, you know that we can go for the visual, as I said before. Yes, and that visual input, movement, making them move around. The game we did today at the very beginning, just like me. yes, in which you had to do something kinesthetic, auditory, visual because you could see, and something kinesthetic. And you were not producing. You would use that, I did not ask you, but we could use that game for recognition. If I want students to recognize a structure, I would have just included statements using can and can't, for example, right? So they would be reading, they would be listening, and they would be moving, yeah? So it's harder, definitely far harder when it's asynchronic.
Yeah.
But we see if
But
we can.
I think you have already answered the question.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Esther.
Then this question of positive reinforcement, yes, and I put it in bigger print because this is what really matters. Having a supportive, caring teacher who believes in me, right? And this is mostly what Goldman means by resonant, an unthreatening environment, an environment where I can make mistakes, where I can be myself, where my let's say rudeness won't be tolerated, but I will be accepted all the same. The teacher will go for me, yes, for a better version of myself. But you know, when students feel that they are accepted, and probably they are very naughty, but they know that we accept them anyway. We accept them as a person, not their manners, not their rudeness, not their impoliteness. Yet we want them there, yes, and we try to see that they can be a better version. Yes, so this is the point. An unthreatening environment where I make mistakes and yet I feel I am accepted. The brain loves that. When you do not have to be at stake all the time. And this has to do with our wiring too. Yes, we are all the time on the alert. Why? Because the first, let's say, aim we as humans have, I mean, talking about, let's say, our animal side, is survival. Yes, we hear an explosion, a strange noise or strange, and we look for that. And this is because we have a strong tendency to look for safety, survival. So if an environment, teaching and learning environment is caring, supportive, unthreatening, I won't have to be at stake seeing if the teacher, let's say, laughs at a mistake I make, or just shouts at me. Yes, because I know that that teacher will go for, let's say, the best manners she can have, yeah? And then, well, an encouraging, and here we use the word one of you, let's say, mentioned, an encouraging emotional climate. That's the number one thing. Then you can be the best trained teacher, you can have lots of degrees, you can, if the student does not feel kind of unthreatened, he won't learn much, as you won't learn much from somebody who all the time putting you at some risk. Can you follow me? It's the way the brain works, yes? And then I love this, this is by Carol Dweck, when she speaks about the power of yet. When students do not know something and they sometimes feel totally frustrated, one very powerful word that we can say to them is this, yet. When they say, I do not know English, yet. I don't like English yet. Yes, so Carol Dweck speaks about the power of yet, and she says we should make like a mantra, even for ourselves, and to be self-compassionate when we say to ourselves, I'll never learn to drive. No, I do not know how to drive yet. And it's so encouraging. It makes you be on the learning curve. You may not be at the top, but you are there, yes? Because there's a difference between not knowing and not knowing yet, yes? So teach them about this. I teach in, as Jaime said when he was reading my bio data, I teach at state-run middle schools where students have had very, very, let's say, little exposure to English, I would say. So when I enter third year, for example, many of them say, yo no sé inglés, eh? Well, yet. I don't like English yet. We'll see, yes? So it's encouraging, and there's a difference. That's why Carol Dweck speaks about the power of yet. There's a difference between saying, I'm not good at this, and I'm not good at this, yet. And it's not lying, because they know when we know that they do not know. It's not cheating. It's just giving them, let's say, this support to let them know that we can wait, that they may not know it, but they may learn it. Yes, this possibility is always present. So I don't get it yet. This doesn't work. Well, it doesn't work yet. Yeah, I can't do this. Well, you cannot do it yet. And this isn't threatening. This is, let's say, encouraging. This is brain compatible, not cheating, not lying, not overdoing it, but showing them that we are there to scaffold, to support, and that is brain compatible. And think of yourselves as learners when somebody saw you frustrated and said, well, wait, let's check this way. And believed that we could. So the idea is this, and we know that some students develop a sense of learned helplessness. And when they develop this sense of learned helplessness about themselves as learners, they feel like this. They have I can't do attitude. Yeah, they are unwilling to face challenges because they failed enough. Yeah, they generally develop a low self-esteem. Yes, and they may have a very negative view of themselves as learners. So they may misbehave, they may say they do not our subject, but there's a lot behind apart from that, right? Instead, when they have a mastery-oriented tendency, they start developing I can do attitude. This comes from Angela Duckworth. Yes, Angela Duckworth talks about the power of grit, determination, and we should develop and help students develop that it's not that I am intelligent or I'm not. Yes, all of us are intelligent in different ways, and we know that. And when I ask my students who's more intelligent, Edison or Messi, I know we can't compare. No, think. Yes, they have different strengths and different weaknesses, but they are all intelligent as we are. Yes, so the question is developing I can do attitude with effort, with support, but I can, right? And when students start to realize that hard work makes a difference, it's not a question of how much intelligence I've been endowed with. It's no, my hard work makes the difference. And if you haven't heard about Angela Duckworth, I strongly advise you to search for some information about her and what she teaches us about the power of grit. Duckworth as the word duck, and worth as the word worth. Yes, Angela Duckworth. These students who are mastery oriented have a willingness to try hard because they believe that through effort and repetition and trial and error, they can achieve something. Yes, and generally they can at least gradually, and some others not so gradually, faster, yes, develop a positive view of themselves as learners. And they too have to do with Carol Dweck's, yes, fixed mindset and flexible mindsets theory, right? So the idea is that through brain compatible teaching and through a brain compatible approach, we can help students to be more mastery oriented, even though they may be coming from long stories of frustration. Who would like to read this phrase by David Souza so that we can hear other voices?
Anybody?
Children who are,
Tito Hidalgo?
Yeah.
Okay, go on.
Children who are praised for their intelligence learn to value performance, while children who are praised for their effort and hard work value opportunities. David Souza, 2009.
Thank you, Tito. This is the point. If you just value performance, they will do whatever. They cheat, they steal somebody else's work. I mean, they have to perform.
Yeah, true.
When you value the process, they learn that the process counts and that they do not follow the same processes when learning. So the idea is, let's see what we praise and how we praise. Yes, and the idea is to praise wisely, right? What do we mean by praising wisely? Praising effort. And now that we are asynchronically, yes, I mean, this applies to both face-to-face teaching and online teaching, right? This question of praising effort, some students are not able to cope alone. They are not able to catch up with all that they've kind of fallen behind with. Yet we see when there's effort, and we should praise content and we should praise the academic performance. We are not talking about, I mean, not taking into account because they have to learn content. Yeah, but the idea is that it's praising content only, and content acquisition is not enough. It's effort and the attitude, right? The strategies they use to learn, the grit, the determination, as Angela Duckworth says, their power to persist in front of difficulties. Angela Duckworth studied this not just in school environments. She's originally a teacher, but then she graduated as a psychologist. She studied who had more grit and who would endure more difficult situations in different contexts, not just in the teaching contexts.
Sorry,
And
Esther.
yes,
Sorry, I'm not a fast learner. What is grit?
determination.
Ah,
Exactly the same. They are synonyms.
thanks a lot.
Welcome.
Like perseverance.
Perseverance. She talks about the power of grit, the same as Carol Dweck talks about the power of yet. Angela Duckworth talks about the power of grit. That's why I used that word, which I had to look up when I first heard it. So Jaime, good question. Yeah.
Of course.
Okay.
And just I guess this is something really important in education, that we teachers make I wouldn't say sometimes, but usually make that mistake that we appreciate and we praise the final product, and we forget to push and encourage and I don't know another verb to let
Support,
them know
yes.
Support, to let them know that is the effort they are doing what is what we
praise or appreciate.
Praise. Yeah, thank you. And the same thing happens at home, I think, with our children.
Definitely, definitely. Sometimes when I see my husband, for example, telling my middle son, who likes to do things so fast that sometimes are not very, very well done, and he just goes for what's wrong, and I say, well, but at least he cleans all this. I mean, it was not that well done, but start for some positive thing and not cheating. We have to show mistakes. But if you just point out what's wrong, that's brain antagonistic, because we turn off very fast. Yeah. Okay.
Right.
So
we need to recognize the process.
Exactly.
We need to recognize the process. Yeah, that's for sure.
We are teaching them that this is the way they should work in life. They may not, let's say, get what they want at the first attempt, at the second, and yet the important thing is in this capacity to be determined. And what Angela Duckworth showed through her research is that students who generally, she did that study, I do not remember, it's quite recent anyway, students who generally finish university studies are not the ones that are endowed with kind of more, let's say, capacity to learn whatever, but who can, I mean, keep up the effort, who fall and stand up again. So, but that has to be taught and has to be praised properly and recognized properly, right? So praise the processes in which they engage, how they try to solve or cope with a situation, right? So what we teach, as I said before, of course, is important. We are supposed to teach content. Well, I have some background music. I hear my dogs. I don't know if you can hear them, but well, so what we teach is very important. But how we teach, the process, the product too, but the learning environment, the whole thing is what really matters. Right? Not just going for the, oh, excellent. Not just when we are in synchronic classes or in face-to-face classes, just praising the one that has the answer first. Wait.
Okay, can I say something before you continue?
Definitely.
Yeah, what you are doing, presenting this kind of PowerPoint presentation with lots of ideas, lots of different fonts and images and everything, that is a rich, visually rich thing. So that is, you are decorating our class. That's the way we should do it. It's not only presenting PowerPoints with black and white. This is enriching the visuals, and that's why that engages the students to to produce. And that's something that was asked before. That's one
Yes.
way to enrich the classroom, not only the posters, but this. Thank you. I'm sorry for the interruption.
No, Edison, what you said is correct. You are kind of answering Mariela's question too. That's what I said, when they are synchronic, when the lessons are synchronic, it's a bit easier, and you should go for visual inputs in this way. And you as teachers, what I want to tell you as regards PowerPoint presentations, or well, if you want to use some other kind of, let's say, platform, lovely, but take into account that it's important to do this, to give the content gradually, because since we are mostly visual, if I put this all together, you're listening to me, but you are reading, and you cannot avoid it. Yes, so that's why if you are going to share several things on the same, on one slide, do not present everything unless it's a quote or whatever. Yes, but try to present it gradually so that they can see and focus on what's in front. Yes, because otherwise we are strongly visual and we go for the reading and we're listening, but we are reading. And you know that the human brain cannot multitask. Yeah, that's for another meeting, but we are not wired for multitasking, unless one of the things we are doing is we are highly trained at, let's say, if I am drinking and reading, I can do both, but I've learned how to drink. Yes, if I'm driving and listening to music, I can. But the day when I started to drive, the first days, I did not even want to hear music around. I had to focus on driving. Yeah, so the human brain cannot process and, let's say, process and focus at the same time. If we are focusing, we are not processing. And if we are processing, although we may believe we can do both things, we are not paying attention. That's why sometimes when we are taking down notes and you hear and you understand and you love what the other one said, and you get to the middle of the notes taking and you say, what did she say? Because you were processing, or you started hearing or listening again to the speaker, and so you stop processing. Yes, the brain cannot do both things together at the same time. Thank you, Edison, for the remark. I think it enriched my answer, and well, thank you for the comment too. Well,
May I make a comment, Esther?
Definitely.
I think during this COVID time, when so many changes were happening, we were adapting and innovating at the same time. So this is why we felt so much exhaustion about how to cope with all of this. It just came to my mind right now.
The point is that we are, you know, that brain spends 20% of the energy that the body produces, which is a lot. And that's why it's so difficult to break a habit or to acquire a new habit, because so as to save energy, the brain, that is the most powerful machine, but very lazy as well, in the sense that it tries to, let's say, save energy. So that's why we generally do the things in the same way. Yes, so we were used to teaching in one way, and we felt we kind of knew our job, how to do it. And then we had to learn not to teach, but to teach through different platforms. I mean, it was most irrational the way we had to adapt to this if we think in brain compatible terms. Yeah, definitely. Are we fine up to here? Because you let me know if you have a doubt, as you've been doing. Well, so why do we forget? Why do students forget? Why do you forget things? Why do some of the things we learn do not pass into the long-term memory? Well, either because the thing was encoded poorly, I did not really get it very well, did not understand what you explained. And so if it was encoded poorly, the brain cannot kind of make that connection strong, yeah? Or because it was not frequently retrieved. So it's the same as muscles. They become strong and powerful if you train them. The moment you stop training them, the muscles understand that we do not need them any longer. I mean, yeah, so the same happens with learning. If we see this in Unit 1 and do not revisit it later, most of what we learned, I mean, those neural connections will be reused, let's say, for other neural connections. So if we want to keep something and to make it pass into the long-term memory, apart from doing other things, working and working and working, so that working memory, we use that information in different ways. But then we need from time to time to go back to make students retrieve that information. Yeah, it's the same as when a student comes and says, how do you say, I remember one day that student came and said, Esther, how do you say nutria in English? And I said, nutria? When was the last time I said nutria in English? And then you know that you have that information, but you haven't retrieved it with certain frequency. And so the brain very intelligently reuses those connections, yes, the neurons that were used for those connections for other new connections. So that's why.
How do you say nutria, by the way?
I don't remember.
You see,
I should have used another example.
You see, no, but you are demonstrating that it happens.
That it happens. How do we say neutral in English? We are many here. Was it easier?
O-T-T-E-R.
Oh, exactly. Otter. Edison. Thank you.
Edison. Yeah. President
of this meeting. You know what? I won't forget that easily. Why? Because when we are kind of taken into certain nervousness, I had a shot of adrenaline when you asked me. I mean, I'm explaining to you what happens in the brain because you need to put up with the situation. And what you remember in times of proper tension, not improper, proper tension, the right amount of tension, you will generally remember it more easily. Yes, that's why it's good to put students to certain kind of adrenaline shots when we are teaching. Yes,
and also do the same with the teachers. We teachers should not be afraid of making the mistake of not knowing or saying, I don't know, or I just don't remember, and not to feel ashamed or embarrassed or disappointed, and show the students that we are humans and we can have the same problems and mistakes they do have in our classes.
Exactly, that we have doubts, that we may not be sure of something, that we will check. And then, yes, I always write it down. I have a little agenda where, a notepad where I write what I have to check for the following lesson, right? And then I check it and that's it. Yes, or when else do we forget?
If I may interrupt, it also helps to show that and give evidence of the importance of using a dictionary, especially if you're teaching teenagers, when they sometimes don't want to use it. With the answer that I'm not a walking dictionary and I need to look for the meaning of a word that they have been asking for, I model the example of going for the dictionary, search for and then helping, self-learning. That's the only thing that I wanted to comment. Thank you.
Exactly.
Sorry.
No, it's like that. And sometimes now, if we have connection inside the classroom, well, if I'm talking about face-to-face circumstances, but we can check at that very moment. And it's really nice when you ask them to search for the term and so we construct that knowledge together. So definitely we model with all that we do. It's true. And the use of the dictionary is one of the ways, one of the things we should model at too. Or when something, let's say, when do we kind of find it very difficult to retain information? When something was not encoded at all. If, as somebody said at the very beginning, what you're teaching is not significant to me or too far-fetched and I cannot hook it with some prior knowledge, I cannot retain it. If I were explaining something about physics and chemistry here, I don't know if somebody loves the field, but if you know very little about that, I could be very, let's say, an expert on the subject. But if you cannot hook my new information onto prior information, it goes poof. As a teacher said in the States when I attended a seminar on short-term memory, she all the time said, that goes poof. Well, if what I'm telling you is not meaningful, is not significant, and you cannot hook it onto some prior knowledge, unfortunately, it goes poof. It's not encoded at all, right? So remember, what we learn, yes, those neural connections are not, as it says here, best friends forever. Yes, it's not that I learned something I do not retrieve it and I still remember it. No, no, no. Those neural connections need, apart from being, let's say, kind of retrieved, and retrieved, need to be encoded strongly and then, well, be put into place, right? So we can say that the human brain needs a lot of repetition. Yes, repetition is the best way to learn, but not this kind of monotonous, yes, kind of boring repetition. No, no, not that. The brain falls, let's say, kind of, I mean, it's tired very quickly and it just turns off. So the idea is repetition, but the formula is repetition with novelty. What do we mean by novelty? Because the brain loves novelty. If I just now saw somebody of you with something on the head, I would be paying attention to the presentation, but also to that new thing, because that's the way we are wired, to look for novelty, for things that are different, that are awkward, yeah? So by novelty, I mean bringing what we have to teach through different, let's say, passing through the different senses, right? The visual with maybe mobiles. If you are that kind of courageous and you want to put on a costume, well, you can do that. Or using puppets, right? Or using music. Music could be background music, music to work with. Yes, inviting senses. The more senses that are invited to the party, the more possibilities that more learners will learn. If we just go to repetition in the same way, I will be favoring those students who learn through that learning modality. Sometimes teachers say, no, but they practiced a lot. And so they did, for example, they had to practice a grammar pattern, and the teacher brought a matching exercise, a fill in the gaps exercise, but they were all linguistic and visual. Instead, if you make them pass that through the body, for example, I come back to my original, the first game we played with, can and can't. And if the sentence applies to you, you have to stand up. I mean, invite the body to invite other senses, because if you just go for the linguistic and written, those students who learn better through that modality will be favored. And the ones who needed, for example, some more auditory input will be automatically kind of deserved, yeah? So the idea is that, and then including humor. As you said, relax in the face-to-face lessons, relax, admit if you do not know something, and bring humor to the lessons, right? Well, this is not very nice, but well, it's a horror movie, poor hands, right? But just as examples of bringing humor. The brain loves, there are shots of dopamine being, let's say, visiting our brain when we feel relaxed, when we feel kind of invited to go on, to move on, yes? So, as somebody said too before, we have nowadays, we are not speaking much about learning styles, but more learning preferences, learning modalities. We are, I mean, none of us is totally visual, or this would stand for, which is the other learning preference. This one stands for?
Auditory.
Auditive.
Auditory.
And this one?
Kinesthetic.
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 So we are not purely one or the other. We are a bit of everything, but we need every sense to be invited. So this is known as the VAC model: visual, the A for auditory, and K for kinesthetic. Remember that kinesthetic is not just moving around. It may be having to move the eyes from left to right. So if what I say is true, look to the right. If it's wrong, yes, close your eyes. It's just, sometimes it's not having to move them around. It has to do with the senses. It has to do with, for example, if you have words inside a bag, a feely bag, and they have to take out maybe words or maybe something, and just by touching it, guess, I mean, through the shape, guess what it is. inviting the senses, the different senses to the party of teaching and learning is a guarantee that more learning will take place, right? So I have like here a summary of what we said. We need repetition. Repetition. The brain needs a lot of repetition to learn. I tell my students, imagine Lionel Messi. Well, I'm from Argentina, so excuse me that I use that example, but I do not know much about football anyway. But he is an expert. Does that mean that he does not train? That he just relaxes and the day of the match he goes and plays? Or he keeps on training and training? The more you train, the faster the neural connections find their way. Yes, and the stronger those neural connections become. Yeah, so we need a lot of repetition, but with novelty. Please bring some novelty, something unexpected, something different. Yes, because repetition plus novelty guarantees learning. And then one last thing that I will include is in an environment which is unthreatening. Because you may have repetition, you may have novelty, but if you do not feel at ease, or if a student, because of something personal, has an emotional negative condition, definitely his learning capacity will be diminished. Our learning capacity is diminished when we are worried about something else. But if in the classroom things are fine and I am not at stake, I feel that my name is not shouted out, and I'm not put to shame when I make a mistake, I have more chances of learning. The brain loves being at ease, yes, to learn. So, variety and novelty, both variety and novelty, through graphs, visual diagrams, mind maps, but we have to teach them these strategies. Sometimes we believe that because they're in secondary or even at university, they know how to draw a mind map, and sometimes they don't. And sometimes they have their learning modality because nobody has taught them. Yes, so storytelling, some students get bored, but others love it. So bring variety, that's the idea. Songs, raps, poems, grammar exercises, we need them too, but do not just one type of practice, right? Okay, games, yes. I generally, before we do written grammar exercises with my students, I try to do something similar through games. Yes, maybe organizing the sentence in the right way. But first I take sentences, right, cut into pieces, and they come in two teams. I give the pieces to each team, and then we play living sentences. They have to stand and give the right order to the sentence, put it up, and the first group to do it, well, gets a point. Yes, so we're repeating. Yes, or when I say, well, repeat me. So we're going to say this as if we're angry. So let's suppose we're practicing vocabulary. So we start Monday, Tuesday. Well, now as if we were happy. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now as if we were not here because we've shouted enough. We generally end like that, no? So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And the idea is they are drilling, they are repeating, but they are repeating with some novelty. Yes, or if I play gradual deletion, I have a sentence or I have, let's suppose, some lexical items I want them to learn, and I erase them gradually. So they have to repeat the whole set. Then I erase one, and I always challenge them to see how good their memory is. So I erase one and they still have to repeat the whole set with the one missing being said. And then I erase two. And then there's a moment when there's nothing on the blackboard and they keep on repeating in the right order. What are they doing? Repeating. But there's a challenge, there's, you know, the brain needs a lot of games, repetition, repetition, repetition for the information to pass into the long-term memory. Field trips, the day they are available, some may be done in the near future, let's hope so. Writings, drawings, always there should be some linguistic element. If we have a drawing, definitely. Yes, role plays. I just put a list here. It's not, let's comprehensive list. It's just a list of, that offers certain variety and novelty. You know what? We humans, the same as mammals, are endowed with what is known as the lower order thinking skills, the LOTS. And they have to do with, let's say, this acronym here, that this acronym stands for the P for perception, the A for attention, and the M for memory. In order to learn, we need to have perception, and we are endowed with it. We need to pay attention, some kind of attention, otherwise we do not learn. And some kind of memory has to be, let's say, present so as to remember and be able to reproduce the information. But these are the lower order thinking skills. The idea is that we invite students to go for the higher order thinking skills. They are known as the HOTS, higher order thinking skills. For example, I cannot see what's there. Comparing and contrasting. Yes? Wait, because I have to move this and it's not working. Just a second. Organizing the information. So I give them the information and they have to organize it. Judging, making decisions, right? Prioritizing. These are the higher order thinking skills. Planning. Are you seeing, because it says that I'm paused. Can you see the presentation? Let's
yes,
see.
sure.
Okay, because it says that it's paused. Okay.
It is only, in my case, I only see the one that says comparing and contrasting, but nothing about planning or organizing.
Inventing, no?
Not yet. In my case, I don't know the rest. But
Well,
it's just
Comparing.
Neither can I.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing. I start sharing and there. Can you see it now?
Now
yeah,
we can.
Now
Now
yes.
we can.
Prioritizing, good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Inventing. Yes, let's see there.
Yes,
Evaluate
those lists are there. Yeah.
decisions, solving problems, work metacognition, thinking about what they did and how they learned best, postponing gratification. These are all higher order thinking skills. You may know, most of you, I'm sure, have worked with Bloom's taxonomy. Yes, so we know that the higher order thinking skills, remember this, we, the same as mammals, have the lower order thinking skills. My dog, my cat, they also have some memory. They remember me. They know who I am. Yes, they have attention. They can look at you and fix their attention for a while. Yes, and they have some perception. If my husband is around, the big dog knows that he should not go into the kitchen. Yes, because he doesn't want it. Even if he's not around, he perceives he's not there, he goes in. So we have that, we humans, the same as mammals. The difference is with the higher order thinking skills. They cannot plan, cannot compare or contrast. We humans are the only beings that have the chance to develop higher order thinking skills. And you know what? They are improved on, they are perfected with the assistance of another. So a child can compare, but it's when he's taught what variables to take into account and how to show agreement or disagreement, when he's taught that he can perfect that. So the higher order thinking skills have to be trained. So see if when we offer them challenges, we go to, up in the pyramid in Bloom's taxonomy, right? Because they are proper of humans. And I love including here, working on metacognition, postponing gratification. You know what? This tolerance to frustration and being able to postpone gratification are of the field of the higher order thinking skills. Sometimes we think that a child misbelieves that he is, let's say, whimsical, but he has not been trained, to tolerate frustration enough, probably. Yes? You know that nowadays our learners, our children at home, want everything right now, and they easily get frustrated. Well, we have to teach them because it's a higher order thinking skill. It doesn't come naturally. I learned upon gratification naturally. Somebody who knows about it has to train me. That's why I tried as a mom, without knowing so much about this at the moment, to let them work on their frustration when they had to choose between buying this toy and this one. And probably they were both cheap and I could have afforded both. But I said, no, choose one. Simply because I felt I was training them for bigger issues, you know? And when something could not be, let's say, when they had to opt for something. So these things have to be trained. They are of the, let's say, of the field of higher order thinking skills, and they do not come naturally. Or they do, but they are perfected with the assistance of another, as Vygotsky would put it. Yes, so basically, when teaching, if we want our students to learn, we should offer multiple options for taking in what's being taught. So teach through different modalities, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic. I did not include here the multiple intelligences, because not even Howard Gardner thinks that we should use the 7 or the 8 in a lesson. But yes, we should use the 3 learning modalities in every lesson. Yes, we should see that we did something visual, something auditory, something kinesthetic. And there we are balancing the way we teach. So we should allow students, let's say, to have different ways to make sense of the ideas, to practice, to rehearse, to repeat, but with variety. Yes. And finally, allow them to show you what they have learned in different ways. They have to sit for an international exam where we cannot get rid of that. But see that in the meantime, we do things that are also allow them to go for other practices. Otherwise, we are teaching the exam, because this is easy said and difficult then to be put into practice. But see that if they cannot express what they have learned according to their preferred learning modality, many students will kind of start to, fall off behind. Yeah, I've already talked a lot, so we will have a brain break now. Yes? Do you want to have a brain break? Okay, this goes like this. There's a word hidden in each box, a word or a phrase, huh? So you have to try and guess what is being written there, what phrase is there. For example, this one, I will show you one, because teachers should model, as somebody said before. So even in an exam, it's good to put one, even in the international exams, you see that they have one statement and sometimes they have the example. So give the example, one, and sometimes the brain understands what the dynamic is about. So this one says, see for yourself, see for yourself. Yeah. So having said this, unmute yourselves or write if you want in the chat box, and you help me please, Jaime, with the chat box.
Of course, of course,
Downtown.
of course. There.
Downtown.
Here, okay. These
Bigfoot.
learners are very fast, very good, Bigfoot. And this one you said?
Downtown.
Downtown.
Oh, I heard more than 2, 3 voices, good. Downtown, very good.
Could be
So
uptown.
could be?
Uptown.
Uptown? And what's the meaning of uptown?
I think I heard that in a song. Uptown Girl.
It's like
Uptown,
Billy Joel, Uptown Girl.
But uptown probably would have been the T down here, the O here, the W
yeah.
here, and the N there. Yes? Okay.
That's a good option.
Yeah, it is. And this one?
Forget and forgive. Forgive and forget.
Yes?
Forgive and forget.
That's Edison. Now I know your voice. I haven't got you in front, but I know it's okay.
Forgive and forget.
He insisted. He was sure. He was sure.
Cool.
Yes, forgive and forget. And this one, oh, sorry, Esther.
You are one in a million.
Good. You're becoming faster and faster.
Yeah.
And this one?
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
Ice Cube.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Very
Ice
good.
cube.
And this one?
Me lights. That's a challenge.
Mm. Me lights. Me lights. Me
You
lights.
need.
It's
Yeah.
a type of lights. A type of lights.
Flashlights? No.
Light, underlining.
The ones that are very shiny and colorful.
Middle light?
Lightning.
Neon lights.
Neon lights.
Neon
Good.
lights.
Neon lights.
Good. Lights.
Yeah.
Good. And what about this one?
Yeah.
Alphabet.
Alphabet?
Alphabet.
No, it's not alphabet. That's too easy.
Capital letters. A lot of letters.
A lot of letters is not.
I have no words to explain how much I love you.
That's a good option.
My brain is working. That's the purpose, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes, please.
The optician's chart.
Yes.
Something is missing there. There's a letter missing. If you find it, you're the winner.
You.
So,
You.
what's the phrase?
Without you.
You are my
Without
alphabet.
you.
Without you. Without you.
Without you.
Yeah.
Without you, I have no words.
Missing you. Missing
Missing you. Okay.
What about without you, I'm speechless?
Wow, cool.
Could have been.
Horseback riding.
Horseback riding.
Okay, an
Horseback
easy one
riding.
again to relax. Okay, horseback riding. Very good.
Horseback riding.
Sweet. That's sweet.
Very good. Well, this brain break is there because we need, you know that the brain relaxes alone without our permission and needs to shift attention all the time, yeah? So it's good every 10 minutes approximately with little kids, and maybe 15, 20 minutes with adolescents, right? And adults, to have some kind of brain break so that the cognitive cortex relaxes for a while. We were playing, yes, and the brain breaks may have nothing to do with the topic you were dealing with. Yes, maybe a joke, maybe, oh, you know what, did I tell you that now I've got a new pet? It's kind of, we go to relax, and then we can go back to insist on kind of, let's say that the attention, yes, of the cognitive cortex. Well, some more neuro-friendly, I will then mention something connected with what we've just done later. So some more neuro-friendly tips. Use an agenda. It's brain compatible to let students know, of all ages, students of all ages, know what you're going to do together in that shared slot. With the little ones, maybe if you're going to read and then sing a song, maybe just, let's say, icons, right? So that they know, and it's a shared thing. And they know that what I do with my students when I see that they are very talkative or whatever, I said, you know, we have to do this, this, and this that we revised at the beginning, and we are here. So I guess we won't finish. You will have to finish on your own, right? So it's a shared thing. And apart from it, it's brain compatible, because one of the things that the brain cannot tolerate or put up with very well is uncertainty. That's why we are like this with COVID-19, no? Too much uncertainty around. But when going back to the classroom setting, when you know that the lesson is going to take, let's say, us an hour, and we're going to cover this, I mean, it's kind of, I know, it gives more a sense of kind of safety. I know where I am and what I have to do. The same as these meetings, you know that sooner or later I'll stop talking. And you know that, let's say in some minutes, because it finishes at 1:30, well, 1:30 in Argentina, you know that it has a beginning, and you already know approximately at what time this meeting will finish. That organizes you. So it's brain compatible. So give them an agenda, share with them the agenda of the lesson. It's like the map, right?
So actually in 15 minutes.
In 15 minutes, Esther has to come to a close. Yeah, so to start with the question. Somebody is unmuted and is typing, and I don't mind, but in case you want to mute yourself. Then one very important thing is give them thinking time. Yes, it's known that we teachers give around 5 seconds. Sometimes we ask a question and we are eager to have somebody answering. Yes, so give them thinking time. Jim Scrivener, well, you may know him because he's a famous writer. I had the chance to meet him once when he was here in Buenos Aires and I worked for the British Council. And so I remember he said, what I do to give my learners thinking time is I use the finger lock. So I put my finger like this, yes, to remind myself that I do not have to start talking. And he said, and by the way, I think I look quite smart when I, right? So use the finger lock, give them thinking time. Sometimes when we just listen or when we hear the first answer, right, we just say, good, and the others won't participate. You've already said yes to the first answer. That's why when we were playing that guessing game at the brain break, I tried to wait for a while, although somebody said the right thing, to try to see if I could challenge others to keep on thinking. Yes, give them thinking time. Do not look at your students in the eyes when you're face to face, especially to those students that you know have the answer and get it very fast. Because sometimes looking at somebody in the eyes means permission to talk. And so they will come up with the answer. And the ones who still needed more time, wow, will just go poof, as I said before, right? So give them thinking time, yeah? Let them do things. Let them manipulate the information. Let them play. Let them listen. We learn when we do. We learn when we listen. We listen to somebody. We learn when we see, but we learn much more when then we are able to produce. And sometimes I'm a teacher trainer for the, when Jaime read my biodata, he said for the GCBA, that is the Gobierno de la Ciudad de Buenos Aires. I'm a teacher trainer for the last 11 years. I've been a teacher trainer. We train, well, around 2,000 teachers of English in the city of Buenos Aires, right? And what we work with the supervisors, let's say hand in hand, and they always insist on our telling the teachers to please go to the production stage, because sometimes they do a lot of practice, guided practice, some free more practice, but there's no real production. And so they do not use the language. Yes. So the idea is that they should be exposed to it, a lot of input, guided practice, more free practice, but there should be a moment of production. Could be short and sweet if they have very few hours of English a week, and more if they have the chance to be exposed for more hours. But be sure that you get to the whole process: input, guided practice, production, manipulating what you've learned. Well, this is the finger lock, Scrivener's finger lock, right? Well, somebody spoke about meaningful teaching quite at the beginning. We learn and we can retain information when the information is meaningful. So I hope this is meaningful to you, because you have to try. I will give you a few minutes, maybe one or two, because we're short of time, to try to remember the letters in the order they are. Yes, as many as you can. Okay, easy. Is it easy? Do you remember the first line? And does anyone remember the first line?
You are more than somebody.
Ah, you are more than somebody. So then you should write the letters there. And
I don't know what you call that technique.
You are, yes, this is mnemonics.
Yes.
A mnemonics technique, it's marvelous. And this is the idea. Yes, you are more than somebody special for anyone.
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, see, what Jaime did is, in a way, what I am just, Jaime, you spoiled my trick. No, I'm kidding.
I'm terribly sorry.
Well, then you apologize in written form better. Okay, listen. What if, pay attention to this, what if I gave this assistance, similar to what Jaime did, eh? Listen to the song and to the first letter in each word. Wait, eh? Now, yes.
Ah.
Oh, cool.
All my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though they're here to stay. Oh, I believe in yesterday.
Yes. Listen, what I want to teach you through this is that is meaningful. If I asked you to go on, yes, writing the letters, but you could connect it with something else, you would be able to do it. Here, when we teach something which is meaningless, it's not significant, you cannot hook it onto some prior knowledge, that's not brain compatible. So we have to see that everything is properly hooked, let's say, onto some prior knowledge. Here, which was a prior, enormous prior knowledge you all had? Which was it? Let's see, so somebody's answering the chat.
What was the question, Esther?
Which is a prior knowledge that I then assisted you with to be able to retain the letters?
Well, what, that everyone knows who the leaders are and the songs, maybe?
Familiarity, familiarity.
If I now, familiarity with the song, if I removed this now and I asked you to write the letters, do you think you would be able to do it?
Yeah, if we know the lyrics.
Because of the picture, yeah, of the photo of the Beatles down there.
Because of the picture, because if you know the song, if I removed this as I did before and I asked you, well, please write the letters that were on the screen, yes, without looking at them, you would be yesterday, what Jaime did before, you would link it to the prior knowledge of the song. And so you would use some stored knowledge in order to produce some new knowledge. The idea is something is brain compatible when it's significant, when it can be hooked onto something that you already know. Otherwise it goes poof and you forget about it. Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Connected to something you already know. You said, like you said, you hook it to something you already know.
So sometimes when we see that many students did not learn a new topic, we should wonder if we hooked it properly to the prior knowledge, if we did not skip a stage, if we scaffolded properly, because probably they may not have had enough support to hook the new knowledge onto that prior knowledge, right? So remember, the brain is human, the brain or the human brain is meaning maker and meaning seeker, all the time looking for meaning, right? In the environment, in the other one who's in front. So I will ask you to tell me, yes, for example, what you think is hidden there.
Love.
Love? Any other possibility? I will do this. Well, look, nothing to do. So why? The point is that it connects, we connect with something we believe that we know. The brain is meaning seeker. I see that, and I was not naughty to put all this, yes? But anyway, you just came across some prior knowledge, love, yes? So careful, always close the loop. That's why I put this here, close the loop. At the end of every lesson, in the agenda, see that you put the final recap, because you need to recap with them to see if they understood, and to recap is rebuilding the information with them. So I always tell my teachers, and I always do it when I teach at middle school, at university, I leave the last minutes to recap the information, to be sure that they kind of, I mean, if they understood it properly, they can kind of confirm it. And if there was a doubt, we can, I mean, revisit it before leaving. Yes, because of this, because if we do not recap, we just say, well, bye, remember to do the homework. Yes, we may have several students who did not understand properly and just living with a beautiful doubt. Yes, and those who understood will have the chance to confirm. You know what? The brain remembers very well what happens at the beginning of a meeting, of a lesson, and what happens towards the end. That is called primacy, what happens at the beginning, and recency. What happens in the middle may be more easily forgotten. That's why we should have several brain breaks, because each time you make a brain break and you kind of put the cortex, the cognitive cortex to rest, and you call for its attention, they are in another period of primacy. Can you follow me there? So primacy and recency, when you are at the end of the lesson, revisit what you did. Yes, because that's more remembered than a lot that happened in the meantime, in the middle of the lesson. So primacy and recency. Leave the lesson with a recap, with a revisiting of what you did. Yeah. So I'm all ears now. Anyway, I haven't finished the presentation. I have a little bit more to share with you, but I'd like to now, yes, build all together things that you listened to, or that you thought about while the presentation, let's say, was active. And I would like to hear from you. What are you taking with you? Or what did you like, or what you liked about it? Or what did we talk about? That would be my question. What did you like about it? What doubts do you have?
Could you please stop sharing your?
Yes, then I will share it again, because I need to.
Okay. Don't, because we just have a few minutes. Actually, we got 2 more minutes, but okay. So if anybody wants to answer Esther's question briefly, please, briefly.
What I most enjoyed about your presentation was you gave us the subject and you showed us how to do it. You walked us through it. You stayed with us in the experience.
Thank you.
Anybody else? You want more, Roxy?
Yes, first I want to thank Esther. I know you haven't finished yet, but I could clearly understand that you have told us how not to teach only to the brain, but to the emotions. And I like I would take with me the power of yet, the flexibility of mindset, and just like me. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Well, what I put here is, let's say, just an appropriate and engaging input, visual, auditory, kinesthetic, variety of support, first-hand experiences, because I learn when I do, I always learn, but when I do, meaningful and personalized tasks that are meaningful to me, significant, I can hook my new knowledge onto something more, variety and novelty, proper timing. Yes, sometimes it's a question of giving some students more time. Working as groups, we have a strong collaborative drive as humans. And then this question of emotional literacy. Yes, and then the power of yet in a resonant environment. We all learn, we all have the chance. Yes, so remember that children value themselves as learners to the degree they have been valued. Yes, and to just focus on achievement without building their self-esteem is to half educate a child. Yes, okay. So I love this. My teacher gave me the best gift of all, believing in me. Yes, so thank you very much. Thank you. I will just now, yes, stop sharing. Yes, and that's it.
What can I say? Raj and Roxy, summarize, I guess, what you have done with us. I felt like a student. I didn't feel bored. I didn't feel tired. I want you to keep on teaching us and demonstrating how to do it. Thank you so much, Esther. Once more, I am really convinced that emotions and everything we have here in brain is we don't use, as the movie says, Lucy movie says, we just only use 5% of our brain.
Nothing. No, we use a whole.
Almost nothing. But emotions, once again, are really, really important. We are just human beings teaching other human beings. We are not superior. Students are not inferior. We are all the same. Thank you so much, Esther, for such a wonderful presentation. 500 people following you in Facebook Live. People in Egypt, people in Italy. Yes, people in Egypt, like 5, 6, 7 people saying thank you so much. In Bolivia, thanks, Esther. Odalis Monson Torres, thank you, Esther. Sara Mesa, thanks, Esther. I love your presentation. I love brain breakers, as you call them. Also, how emotions are truly important. Finally, how you treated high order skills. Well, everybody loves you, Esther.
Thank you, my pleasure.
So I'm sure that we will have you with us next year at the beginning of the year, and especially because I will be teaching a 2-hour, 30-minute class in summer here in Piura, and I don't know what I will do.
What to do?
Yes, 2 hours.
Brain breaks will work.
So I will need your help. So on behalf of this beautiful audience, thank you, Raj, from Canada. Thank you, Roxy, Ernesto, Tito, Cynthia, Isabel, Ruben, Judy, Emily, Marisa, Pilar, Ángeles, Beto, Anthony, Josefina, Daniela in England, our Peruvian teacher who is studying a master degree thanks to a scholarship from our government, Silvina in Colombia, Mauricio in Ecuador, Lilian, Josué, Cecilia, Maria, and Julio, and my goodness, everyone else. Thank you so much. Just one more person to thank our wonderful guest this morning. Somebody else, just one more. Come on.
I just want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I heard somebody. Well, I just wanna say thank you. I'm taking about brain breakers. I'm gonna apply those in my classes. So thank you.
Yeah, and people, Esther, sorry to interrupt. There are people asking if we can have your PowerPoint presentation.
I can pass it on to PDF and give it to you. I send it to you, and then you share it.
Yeah. $10 each.
Anyway, I remember my PowerPoint presentations do not have a lot of writing because that's the way it should be. Yes, some visuals, and then you should enrich with what you say. So some of them are kind of poor. I mean, if you see it alone.
No, don't say that, Esther. As Edison mentioned, you have just shown us and demonstrated us that it's not the images, but the color. I had never seen black and then white letters, never. So my eyes were just concentrated in what you had written. So thank you so much.
We can talk about that in the future, but it's important to use black or dark background and then highlight with a white. That's brain compatible too. One thing I want to say, sorry, but just to round off about emotions and what you were saying, Jaime. For many, many years, it was believed that we humans were rational beings with emotions. And it's only recently, I would say 30, 40 years ago, that this changed into we are emotional beings because we've been with our limbic system for far longer than the frontal lobes. We are emotional beings who can think, but we are definitely emotional. So take care of your emotions and your children's emotions. And
so we would say that first we feel,
yes,
and then we think,
of course,
and finally we act.
Yeah, it is like that. It is
say
like
that again. First we feel, then we think, and finally we act. So before doing anything, guys, feel it, think,
feel it.
Yeah, feel it, think about it, do it.
So Jaime, don't think about charging anything, please.
Feel it, feel it.
Feel it,
Yes.
but don't think about it.
Okay, thank you so much, Esther, and thank you everyone, and see you next Sunday with Rosemary Rivera from Bolivia. Thank you so much, everyone. See you, God willing, next Sunday, 9:30 a.m. Peruvian, Colombia. Thank you so much, Esther.
Thank you, my pleasure. Stay safe.
Presentation.
Stay
Thank you.
safe. My pleasure, really. Thank you.
Bye.
An honor. Bye-bye.
Thank you, my students. Thank you, Pilar, and thank you, the new people in our Zoom meetings. Cheerio, as they say in English.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.